I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands.
Welcome to Build an Iconic Life podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whitehead, and this podcast is dedicated to help you build a life with zero regrets by focusing on how you have everything you need to stand up, stand out, and live life on your terms. Let's dive right in. And then there's one more thing, two things that I want to say. Because look, if the $100,000 is only giving you $80,000 worth of buying power, and you're not getting a raise anytime sooner, you can't find a way to get a second job, it means that you're not going to have as much money. So you have date night. Yeah, but I can't afford to go out on date night. Well, let me tell you what we've started doing that shocked me as a guy. Number one, about 3 years ago, Robin was getting upset at me because, you know, a lot of my clients come from social media. Guess what time they're getting on social media? It's after work. So it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. We're all sitting, you know, we're sitting on the couches and watching a big TV, and Chris will pick up the phone and I start texting the person because, hey, they're a potential client. Why don't we do that? That's what my marketing does for me, blah, 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 blah. And she finally brought it up enough times that I said, you know what? I'm not going to be a workaholic. So I put my phone on automatic do not disturb at 6 p.m. every night. Now, I do go check it 6 times probably before bed, just in intervals, just to make sure. Because I have clients in Iconic, I have clients in, you know, NECR. And if Robin's doing something, maybe I'll get on social media for 5 minutes while she's doing something, then I'll put it back down. Number one, I can't tell you how much calmer my life got.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that's been 3 years, dude, that I do this, and even sometimes we'll be sitting there and I'll, you know, Kayla's at Tufts. Oh, by the way, Kayla's Tufts Dental University in Boston.
Very nice.
And yeah, first year, her first exam got her butt kicked, but it kicked her into like only 5% of people that apply get selected, and it's shooting them out of a rocket. But anyway. I digress. Kayla was on the couch, Jonah's sitting beside me, Robin's on the couch, and I look and everybody's on their phone and mine's sitting at my feet. And I'm watching the movie and it's fine. That still wasn't a good enough excuse because now it has nothing to do with anybody else. It has to do with just my rhythm is starting to slow down. That led to movie night. And what I found is after about 2 weeks, oh boy, we finished dinner. It's movie night. It became a date for all of us every single night to find something that was going to be interesting for us to do together as a family. It led to one more thing that I never thought that I would actually enjoy doing, Matt. Never thought. Jonah ended up getting Robin a cookbook that said texture over taste. Has all these recipes in it. And this is for people that you're not making enough money maybe, or maybe your food is actually better than what you buy out, because that's what Robin and I found. We make food, like, bro, maybe in Texas, they make some good steaks, and they do make some damn good steaks in Texas. But I make better steaks than anywhere around here. And I'm going to go pay $150 for a steak when I can buy it for $50 and make it perfect. But Robin and I, we're making specialty pizzas. We're using non-gluten bread, which, by the way, doesn't make me want to feel bloated and stupid all night. Spaghetti noodles, we make dinner together, and we have Sonos around our house. So we'll put Italian dinner music on. If you walk into the kitchen, if you go into the dining room, if you go into the great room, if you go outside, the music's playing everywhere. And we make this artisanal dinner, and whether Jonah's with us now, Kayla's doing her thing, but whether Jonah's there to eat or not, we're enjoying this time, not communicating in a completely different way. It's become a date night every night.
Yeah.
And then I make it my job to be the cleaner. I clean all the dishes. And I love it because I'm the one that gets to polish the countertop at the very end. I'm the one, so we have an island gas stove, you know, and it'll get the grease and the stuff on. I'm the one that picks the grates and puts it. I love keep polishing stuff. I'm a guy, right? It has nothing to do with whether she appreciates it or not. I have no idea. I don't get thanked for it, but I'm doing it because now I'm doing something in our home every single day. Yeah. We have date night. The phone is off. We're making great food together. She's going and buying amazing she's the one that figured out about the gluten and about the organic breads the organic fruits and vegetables and stuff. And then these recipes we put together, and every once in a while we mess one up, but the next time we get it right. And it becomes a conversation. So Robin used to ask me, it would stress me out, dude, because I'm not a live to eat person. I'm an eat to live kind of person. Like, I'm the kind of guy that walks and all of a sudden starts shaking, and I'm like, oh boy, I got to get some food in me. But she used to ask me, what do you want for dinner this week? And I'm, whatever you make.
Yeah.
Not anymore, dude. Oh no. Remember that shrimp with the grits that you made with that red sauce? That was, let's do that. Let's do some panko. Hey, I'm gonna go. I found out at Costco they do prime steak. I'm gonna go get prime steak. And we start to build our life around that instead of building our life around social media, drama, even the television shows. It's starting not to matter, any of it. And these are things people can do on a date night without, you're gonna make food anyway. Why not get involved in it?
Well, so we've started doing that with our kids. And what's funny is that every once in a while you'll find like, oh, you have this hidden talent. My 11-year-old is the best chef I've ever been around. And like legit. So
wow.
So he'll watch something on a video and he'll be like, I want to make this. And so the other day, like this is like a year and a half or 2 years ago, he was like, Dad, I want to make a steak. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, do you want to smoke it? Do you want to grill it? And he was like, no, I want to make it on the stovetop in a pan. And I was like, all right, you want to do this the hardest possible way you can come up with? And he's like, yeah. First one was good. Second one was the best steak I've ever had. And then he's like, I want to make octopus. Well, first I had to find out where I buy octopus. And so I did. My 11-year-old makes I've had octopus in all sorts of high-end restaurants. Yeah, so he makes this octopus, and I'm just like, that was the best octopus I've ever had. And he was like, I want to make keto calamari. And I'm like, all right. And so what we've ended up doing is that now the whole family gets together, and Zane's like, I want to make this thing. And we're like, all right. And so we'll all, get together and make it and eat it as the family. And that's been a really fun thing. And what's funny is that the other day he was like, I want lobster. And so we did lobster and steak, and the lobster were like $17 a lobster. And the steak was, like I get Wagyu's, like I go with a guy and I buy a piece of a cow. And so our steaks aren't that expensive. So and he injected the claws with garlic butter and all sorts of before it was ridiculous. And so we get done, and we probably had this been at like the club or like one of the restaurants around here, it would have been a $500 dinner, and it was like $100. Yeah. And we all got to be there together. We all made it. I cleaned it up. I'm the cleanup guy as well. Because my wife does all the desserts, and Zane does something like, I will help, and then I'll just clean everything up. Because the other problem is that like my 11-year-old's phenomenal at cooking. He doesn't clean as well as I like things clean. And so I'm like, instead of yelling at you, I'll just do all the cleaning. Like that's like, you've done your part, you did the cooking, I'll clean it. So I'm the same guy. But that's been really, really fun. And like you say, it's finding those little things. Like you can even, like what some of the times I've told people to do, I'm like, look, just go out and sit somewhere. Like, like send the kids away, like find, get together with your group, your circle, and be like, hey, you take the kids on these days, we'll take them on this days. So you can kind of get that time away. Because one of the things that we started doing that we actually love is, because our life is so fast and there's so much stuff going on, we're so busy, we don't have time to clean the house like we really want to. Like things just accumulate. And so we're like, all right, look, to get some peace back, we're going to send the kids either with my parents or with their friends or with whatever. And then we're going to spend the day in our pajamas just cleaning the house. And and we're talking about, do we need this? Do you remember when we got this? Like that type of thing. Like that's been phenomenal. And that counts as a date night as well. You don't have to spend money. You have to spend time. And that's the thing that people need to recognize, is that dates are time, their interviews, their discussions, their communication, they're not financial. So like, because a lot of times, like my favorite ones and some of hers have been when we cleaned like the house, because once it's been irritating us forever that it's just so filthy and cluttered and we just can't do it. And if the kids are there and we start trying to do it, they, for some reason, they cannot be on video games while we're cleaning. They have to come ask us questions every 7 minutes. So, and I love my kids and I want to answer all their questions, but I'm also trying to do something.
Yeah.
So we'll send them to their friend's house and then we'll just clean the house. Or, we'll sit out in the backyard and eat dinner, or we'll make dinner. And so those things have been phenomenal. And like you say, like those are the places that you're going to see. I think you're going to see the most, because you can have a conversation about sex. You can have a conversation about, things that are important to you that you wouldn't want to have in a busy restaurant. But if you're home by yourself with just your spouse, you can have those conversations that you need to have, because you need to have them. Nobody's here. It's just the two of us and we're eating. Let's have this conversation about this thing we need to talk about. So that's been really beneficial for me. And those are the most fun ones that I have. And so when we hand those out to people, those are the ones that people come back and go, like you said, these are the most meaningful for me. So there isn't a money thing.
Two things. Number one, Robin is 5'3", and I'm 6'2", and we have a walk-in closet, and she has her hats up on a shelf. Robin cleans. She is a clean freak, but she's 5'3" because the dust on the top, she can't see it. It's above her head. And just like you, I love knowing that there is a day or a 2 to 3 hour window where it's like, I'm going to take every one of these things down. I'm going to clean this thing and put them back. It just makes me feel better. And a lot of times we are doing it together, because what's funny, I will be tasked to do something and Robin will be on the other side of the house and she will come help me. She just shows up in the closet and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm doing what you asked me to do. I'm cleaning." She goes, "Okay." And next thing you know, she's starting to rearrange clothes and refold them and stuff like that. The other thing, guys, Robin also likes clothes a lot. Not every woman does, but Robin does. So sometimes our date night is me sitting in the chair in the bedroom. We have this really, comfy chair in the bedroom. And she does a fashion show in front of the mirrors, and she puts her Louboutins on, and she puts her weird little dresses on. And apparently, there is this crack-addicted site called Shein where you can buy these clothes for like $5 or something. So she'll get the nice stuff, but so that she can just constantly buy stuff and try them on. Dude, she's getting these dresses for like $12. Makes her look like a tulip. Who cares if you wear it twice and it falls apart? So these are the things she comes out and does a fashion show, and she puts her hat on and she twirls around, and it just builds some energy, man. Yeah. And that's the whole point of this thing is you guys have been together how long? 20?
We've been married we'll be 15 years in March.
Okay. We've been together 15 or 16 as well. You have to maintain this thing. It doesn't just automatically, it's like a muscle. And that's what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
These things are what is the gilding that goes in the cracks in Japanese pottery? What is that called?
The gold stuff. I don't remember what that's called, but I love it. It's beautiful. Like you break the pottery and you put the gold in between it. Yes. Yeah. But it's more valuable after it's been broken than before.
So when we start to notice these cracks, instead of reacting when the pot breaks, we respond by putting the gold filling in there. And that's my job as a husband, is to love my wife. Like by my faith, that's what I'm supposed to do, is love her. Her job is to respect me. So in the Bible that I read, there's over 100 verses that literally tell a man how to love his wife. My job is to make sure that I am not being selfish and make sure that I am providing, protecting, and truly loving her. And the only way that I can do that is to check in with myself and ask me a real sincere question. Do I? Am I? Can I? And when I do these things on a regular basis, what I find, the little notes, the cleaning the thing up, polishing her car, it doesn't friggin' matter. And whether she sees it or not, it also doesn't matter. I'm just creating that foundation for her so that she can fly whenever she wants to. And it's exactly what you've been doing with Lou. I remember you telling me that you guys had to, because of your faith, you had to go and speak to the priest and have a conversation about why do you love each other. And you thought it was the funniest thing on earth because you took your relationship with Lou so seriously that you guys had already had this conversation well in advance
Mm-hmm.
and more complexity than the gentleman was asking you. And what we were getting to in that was you started to realize how many people have no idea why they're getting ready to get married to begin with. Well, you want to share about that a little bit?
Yeah. So it was, it was kind of one of those deals where, I started getting really worried for other people because we'd sit down and they'd be like, all right, we're going to ask you, and they separated us. So I was with the guy and she was with the woman that was supposed to mentor us. And he was like, have you guys talked about kids? And I was like, yeah. He was like, well, what are you thinking? I was like, well, I want 2, she wants 4. And so the easy thing we're going to do is we're going to have 2, see how it goes. And we'll have 2 more, if when we go there. And so we get back together, and it was exactly what everybody had said. And after we do, and it was just over and over and over like that. And then they were like, let me see your budget. And so we show them our budget, and it's on a spreadsheet with multiple tabs and like 16 columns. Like it was like, it looked like a CPA or a CFO put it together. And they were like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. And I was like, well, let me see yours. And they're like, it's all, so the example was fine. And I'm like, no, it was 1 page with 10 line items. And I was like, how are you? But the thing that I walked away from it was like, if you're getting married and you haven't talked about having kids, if you're getting married and you haven't talked about where you're going to live and like what you expect out of each other, like you're not ready. But the biggest thing I noticed is that I think the biggest problem we get into is that when people get married, they don't know who they are, let alone the person they're getting married to.
Yeah.
And so you haven't spent enough time on you. What do you care about? What are your core values? What's important to you? Where you want to go in life and why? Because until you figure out that stuff, you can't find a partner to go with you on the journey if you don't know what the journey is. And so that's been one of the big things that I try to sit down with people and be like, do you know who you are? And everyone's like, absolutely. And I'm like, tell me, like, what's your core values? And people are like, well, you shouldn't kill people. I'm like, dude, if your core value is you shouldn't kill people, you've got a lot of demons inside. Like, if that's what you guys said down, like, we have time. But, it's that type of stuff. It's like, do you know who you are? Do you know what's important to you? Because once you know what's important to you and you find someone who isn't aligned with those same core actual values, you guys are going to do great. But the other thing is, like you said, you have to understand that this marriage is something that you have to constantly work on, because everything that's important requires work. The more important it is, the more work it requires. If you're going to tell me that your marriage is important and you're not working on it, you're lying about one of those 2 things. So you've got to kind of come together with that on your own and kind of figure out where you're going to go with it, because that's the more important piece is what are we doing on a constant basis to maintain this thing. So, that would be the thing that, because a lot of times when I talk to them, like, what do you guys do for date night? What do you guys do? How do you do things? What do you do for her? And like one of the things that I always do is Lou drinks this tea, and every night before I go to bed, I prep her tea for her so that when she gets up in the morning, it's done. And it's not a giant thing. It's just hey, I'm still here, right? Like I still care about you. I'm still doing stuff for you. Like that type of a thing. And so, and she recognizes it, and we've talked about it, and she understands I don't enjoy doing it. And I'm not like, oh, I love putting tea together. It's a little note to her every day. And so it's like, what are you doing to communicate to each other on a daily basis that you love each other, that you're working on it? And the thing is that, and I love it when people try to use half Bible stuff to justify what they're doing. And they're like, well, the man's supposed to be the head of the household. I'm like, he is. You're 100% right. However, do you understand how that's supposed to be set up? It goes, God, wife, kids, you. So if you've made a single decision that you want to do before you've made sure it's okay with everybody in heaven of you, you're not leading the house in a godly manner. So you don't deserve to lead the house. And so if you want to deserve and earn the respect and earn the responsibility of leading the house, you have to do it. And you're going to tell me it's the biblical way. You got to do it in a biblical manner. You've got to put God first. Then, like, what does God want me to do? What is the best thing for my wife, and what's the best thing for my kids? And then what's left over, you get to do for you. And if you do it right, because you love the people in front of you, as long as you've taken care of them, you've taken care of you.
Yeah.
And that's the piece when we really boil it down and we strip up all this stuff that where we have these deep, dark things that have damaged us in the past that we don't recognize because they're in our unconscious mind. As we start peeling those things out and getting rid of those things, it's easier because you love yourself more to now love somebody else. And that's one of those big pieces. The reason we do the mental work on a lot of these guys is because you've got your teeth kicked in too many times. Like you've got scars you're not willing to let go of that you don't even know you have. But if we can start to work on these things and calm these things down and get rid of them, as long as you have more peace inside of you, you have more peace you can give out. And so that's the big piece. That's why we do the mental work. It's not so because you have something that needs to be fixed in you necessarily. It's because the thing that's broken in you is keeping you from being the man you need to be for your wife and for your kids. That's why you're doing this. And so that's been the biggest piece. And so if you can start working on you and start working on your relationship, not only are you going to weather this 20% reduction or whatever it is in buying power function, you're going to recognize one day when you're old that you've done a lot of work. And you know what? You've been the example of doing the important work to your family. And so now your kids don't have to go through the same problems you went through because they watched somebody else do it in a way that they can then model themselves after, and they don't have to have the same problems you had. And I think that's my goal, is fix my stuff, be the example of how to fix it to my kids so they don't have to have the same problems I had. They can fix different problems.
For better or for worse, I want to be able, because I think about death a lot, not in a bad way, not in a pessimistic way, but like it's a gut check all the time. Like, hey,
Yep.
The end's coming, man. What are you doing? I want to be somebody every day that I can look back on and I'm proud of me. And I have pretty high standards, except where I don't.
Yep.
And that's why I need friends like you. It's why I put myself in situations where people who are choosing to grow, because I want to be able to be proud of me. And I think every man wants to be able to look himself in the mirror and say, I love you, and mean it, and not divert his eyes when he says it. I think every man wants to be able to feel powerful and strong. And I think every man wants to have something worthy of protecting. It's a biological urge inside of us. And all we've talked about today are ways that men can do that if they choose to. Thank goodness we didn't talk about what women are supposed to do, because quite honestly, I don't know very much about what women are supposed to do. I'm not here to identify what your problems are. That's for you. If you want to share them with me, that's fine. But otherwise, I'm going to focus on being the best version of me every single day that I can. And it's not always perfect. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. But there is a commitment inside of both of us that we're, number one, we're not going to quit on ourselves, and then we're not going to quit on each other. When you're put into Plato's, which maybe that's a little, put into a prison of your own making called marriage, what kind of house you want to make in the prison? Here are your tools. Here's your person sitting with you. They got to go poop just like you do. Identify the spot. Everything else, make it really pretty, and figure out how to have a damn good time, because you're not going to make it out of this thing alive, most likely. I know we got Elon Musk and a few other people working on some stuff, but barring that, Matt, you've been talking about, and we got to wrap up, but you've been talking about this is what we do. This is what we do when we sit down. This is what we do with men. What is it that we do? Which business is this?
So what I finally figured out was that the hormone stuff, the supplementation stuff, the exercise stuff, I can teach people how the body works and how to do it in about 3 months. And so what we started doing is I started realizing, because I couldn't get the gut to stay on. I could fix it, but I should be able to be like, all right, now you don't need half these supplements, and I could walk away. But what I started realizing through all my neurology training was that we were stuck in a sympathetic state. And so we were always stressed out. We were always freaking out. And so I started realizing that the mind is the most important thing that we've got to work on. And so as I started working with people, I'm like, I just started asking, like, what stresses do you have? And they would tell me, and we'd start working on, we'd start putting them back together. And that's where I started realizing the vast majority of the stuff that we need to work on is mental. And so as we started working with people on, like, just showing them, like, hey, look, here's another way to look at this problem. Like, here, like, look at it this way. As we started doing more of the mental work that you want to call it personal development, whatever it is, how to set goals, how to do some of these things that, that I've been learning for a decade through psychology and philosophy and, that sort of thing. But that's the thing that we're starting to really, really work with people on, is we're changing the way that you view what's going on in your world so that you can recognize that you have the power, you have the control to change those things. And so the mental work that we've been doing has been really, really good. And what's funny is that Lou and I both do it, and Lou's been having a great time. She retired from Microsoft so that she could do this. Yeah, it's been awesome. I'm really, really jazzed about it. And we've had a lot of the men and women who've gone through and worked with her. And it's funny because like I'll talk to him, and one of the guys, like I took like 30 pounds of fat and put like 15 pounds of muscle on him. He's like, his gut issues went away, his skin issues went away, and like he looks better and feels better. Like this list of all the stuff we did to his body. And after like I worked with him for like 6 months, and he worked with Lou for like 3 weeks, and he's like, man, I gotta tell you, he's like, you were good. He's like, the things your wife has taught me to do, he's like, has changed my life more than anything. Wow. And I'm like, yeah. But that was the thing, because like, well, this particular guy, he had an event in his mind that he didn't recognize. He couldn't see it. And so she kept asking, was there an event? Was there an event? Was there an event? And he's like, no. And finally she asked me a different way. And he was like, yes. He was like, oh shit, there was an event. He's like, how old were you? And he was like, I was 3. He was like, now I can see the entire thing. His parents got in this big divorce. There's all these, physical trauma and everything. Now he could see it. And he's like, now I understand why this happened and why this happened. And so he could start unraveling a lot of the issues he had, because he wasn't looking at this problem in the right vantage point. And so as soon as he started doing that, he was like, oh my God, he's like, this is why so much of my life has had all these issues. And so he's able to start pulling them apart and putting them back together now, because now he sees them. He's now conscious of these issues and he can deal with them. And so that's what we've been really walking people through is like, look, have you looked at this problem from all the different angles you should? And have you looked at it from the, what do I own at it? And as we start doing that, and a lot of that we do virtually, as we started doing that, there's NLP stuff, there's all sorts of stuff we use in it. That has been the biggest thing I think we've changed health-wise for a lot of people. Now, giving women their hormones back, we'll do the whole thing. So like what I love about marriage function is that we'll bring these guys in, these married couples in, and we'll fix both of them. But the big thing is that we give the women back their energy, we give them back their hormones, we give them back their sex drive, and we radically increase their orgasm function. And what happens is that day one, they come in, they sit kind of apart. 2 months in, they come in and they'll like literally pull the chairs closer together so they can hold hands. And they will lean towards each other. And I will make the comment to them, I'm like, do you see what's going on here? And they're like, oh yeah, no. Our relationship's amazing now. And I'm like, how do you feel at home? And like, the biggest piece is if we can build a center of safety, if we can build a place of calm amongst the storm, you can go out into the world and get your teeth kicked in every day. If you come home to a place of safety, love, and warmth, everything's okay. The problem we're getting into is that a lot of these guys are going out into the storm and they're coming home to a different storm. They never get away from the stress. And so if we can start fixing the way that we're looking at our problems and do some mental work with them, all of a sudden they can create this little pocket of peace. And everything's great, because that's the big thing I don't think women understand. Like, what do men want? We want peace. Yeah. That's it. I want to come home from the storm and be in a bubble of peace. And I need you to help me create that. That's what we need. And if you're going to be argumentative, you're going to be pushing, you're going to be all these, that disturbs the peace. Now, we have at least 50% of the responsibility of creating this peace with you, but that's the thing. And so if we can figure out how do I communicate with you? And how do you communicate with me? And how do I look at this in a way that's going to be beneficial to the both of us? That's how we create peace in the home. So that's what we're trying to help people do.
I doubt you're trying. I think you're doing it. So Dr. Matt Chalmers, everyone, I didn't actually introduce him at the beginning of the show. He's a great friend of mine. He's been on the show before. I highly recommend you reach out to him. Robin and I, both have reached out to him, work with him. He has solved various issues for us, and always from a heart-centered place, bro. That's the thing that I really appreciate about you. It's a very holistic way of doing medicine and doing life. And it always has the mental, like it's never not had the mental part in it. And I appreciate the heck out of that. If people wanted to reach out to you to find out more, what's the best way?
Pillarsofwellness.com is probably the easiest.
Okay.
Or Dr. Chalmers 1 on all the social media.
Okay. Dr. Chalmers 1 on all the social media, or pillarsofwellness.com.
Yeah.
Hey man, when you get another bug or another hankering and you want to have a conversation, I always love rapping with you, and you're always welcome to come on this show. I'd love to have you again.
Absolutely, man. I will. It'll be great.
See you later, everybody.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Hey, friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to catch future casts. If you really enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it so others can benefit from it as well. I'll see you in the trenches.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.